Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. A very warm welcome to yet another session of Weekend with Wisdom series. We have been continuing our discussion and our study of the topic Maya, the power of Ishvara. We have Shri Srinivasa Iyengar ji with us. Namaste, Srinivas ji. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like to chant a prayer to begin session. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanau Bhunattu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Before I hand over the session to Srinivas ji, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce him. Srinivasan Iyengar ji had a 30-year career spanning India, the Middle East, and Singapore. He worked with international banks in multiple senior management roles. Srinivas ji has addressed diverse audiences, example cadets and officers of Indian Naval Academy, doctors at the Armed Forces Medical College, senior executives of Tata Power Company, principals and teachers of JNVs, and so on. Over the past 5 years, having taken early retirement, he has been engaged full-time in driving a project to create noble civil servants through the combined civil service exams. He has been involved with the spiritual path for over 30 years, and his repertoire of speaking covers spirituality, that is Bhagwad Gita, Bhagwatam, Vivekachoodamani, Panchadashi, etc., leadership and personality development, how to win friends and influence people, and public speaking books by Dale Carnegie, etc., workshop on personal empowerment for over 100 rural residential schools in remote areas of rural India. Srinivas ji is a chartered accountant from India and chartered financial analyst from USA. Thank you so much once again, Srinivas ji, for joining us. This is such an important topic. Today is the second instance we are meeting to discuss further. Over to you. Looking forward to this session. Thank you.
Jai Shri Krishna. Namaskar to all, Charan Sparsh to all people who have joined here and who will join later on YouTube. I'm audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Maya, the power of Ishvara is the topic. And yesterday we looked at two things. One was, this was the agenda we set for ourselves. And yesterday we looked at two things. How do various texts define Maya? And what does Maya do? And today we're going to talk about, is there a way to deal with this? So when we talked about how do various texts define Maya, I will do a quick recap of yesterday's session for the benefit of those who are joining us for the first time today. What are the definitions of Maya? We see in Vivekachoodamani, Maya being defined as avidya, nescence, or Maya is the power of the Lord. She is without beginning, made up of three gunas, trigunatmika, without beginning, trigunatmika. And Maya can be only... Just give me a minute, sorry. 1 minute, sorry. Sorry. You're okay with it? Okay. So Maya can be only inferred from the effect that Maya brings about, which is the whole world. She brings about this whole universe, and Maya can be inferred from the effect. Then we saw the definitions in Panchadashi, where we talked about Maya from three perspectives. One perspective is it is tucha, meaning it is negligible for the man of realization. It is anirvachaniya for a sadhaka because Maya is there, because the universe is visible, but yet after knowledge of Brahman, Maya will disappear, and therefore Maya is not there. So it is there and not there, therefore it is anirvachaniya, cannot be described. And for the ordinary people, and we described ordinary people as people who are not on the path of satsanga, not looking down upon them. We are just saying that if you come onto the path of satsanga, then you become a sadhaka and then you can become a jnani. So for ordinary people, Maya is real. That's what we saw yesterday. And then the Maya creates a whole universe without impacting Atman itself. We saw the definition from Vedanta Sara, where it says Maya is Sat and Asat both. That is it is opposed to knowledge naturally. Where Maya is there, knowledge cannot be there. Bhavarupam, it is a positive quality, yes, yet it is non-existent. How do we know Maya? From statements such as I am ignorant, etc. We know that its existence is established. Then we saw Bhagwad Gita chapter 7 verse 14, where we saw Maya is Devi Hesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Durtya. This Maya is mine, it is very difficult to cross. Mameva Prapadyante Maya Metam Taratite. Only those who adore me will cross Maya. We saw that also. Then we saw the definition of Maya from Bhagwatam, where in Canto 11, chapter 3, in response to a question by Raja Nimmi, Yogi Antariksha, this is the discourse of the Navayogis in the 11th canto. Yogi Antariksha is asked the question by Raja Nimmi, what is this Maya? Please, can you tell us what this Maya is all about? In response to that question, Yogi Antariksha answers Raja Nimmi to say that Maya is the one which having three aspects, meaning Trigunatmika again, but is also doing the work of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. Meaning the whole creation of the universe, the maintenance of the universe, and the destruction of the universe is the work of Maya. That is what we saw. Beautiful part of 11th canto, the Navyogi discourse. In Eknathi Bhagwatam chapter 3, and this is Eknath Maharaj's, the great saint Eknath Maharaj from Maharashtra, his exposition on the 11th canto of the Bhagwatam alone is called Eknathi Bhagwat. In that, in OV, in chapter 3, in OV number 67 and 68, verses 67, his discourse on it, 67 and 68 para of it, we call it OVs in Maharashtra. He says the Maya is exactly equal to our flight of imagination, because the universe, Vidya Maya, which is the creation of the whole universe by the Lord, is not a problem. What is the real problem? Avidya Maya is the real problem. And where is that Avidya Maya coming from? By putting the stamp of I and mine on the various objects of the world, I create my world. And that I and mine stamp, Eknath Maharaj says, is pure imagination only. It's nothing but imagination. And he says the great hope that we hold in our mind is the main structure of Maya, OV 68. So one gives us what is Maya, and the other tells us how Maya is sustained in our mind. What is this great hope? The great hope that we will find happiness in the world. Somehow or the other, we will squeeze out permanent happiness in the world is the great hope that we have. And that is what Maya is going to, that is how Maya is going to sustain itself. We saw this as well. Then we saw that Ramcharitmanas also talks about Maya, where in Lakshmana Gita, in Aranya Kanda, where Sri Rama says, I will explain to you very clearly, dear. Please listen with your mind absorbed. He says, the feeling of I and mine, you and yours is Maya. So simple a definition. The feeling of I and mine, you and yours is Maya. And this Maya holds sway over all created beings, he says. See, very clear. All created beings are subjected to Maya. Whatever is perceived by the senses, eyes, ears, nose, touch, tongue, etc., whatever is perceived by them is Maya. Whatever is perceived by the mind is Maya. That's what Sri Ram tells Lakshmana. And then we saw our own understanding, Maya, that which is not, we call it illusion. But we saw that the word illusion doesn't do justice to the nature of Maya. And we saw the katha related to Naradji, where we saw how Naradji's question of what is Maya is answered by the Lord with a experience rather than a explanation. We are doing explanation, he did an experience. That's amazingness for you. What does Maya do? We took our bearings from Maya Panchakam. We said that what does Maya do? In this partless Ekam Eva Aditya, no Swagata Veda, no Swajatiya Veda, no Vijatiya Veda type Brahman, it brings about the Veda of Jeeva, Jagat and Ishwara. And we asked ourselves the question, what is the problem in this? Is there a problem? Why should Jeeva, Jagat, Ishwara be a problem? Because I am Jeeva, I am living in Jagat and I am worshipping Ishwara. What is the problem? And we saw that the Jeeva is permanently Alpagyan and Alpashaktiman, and he is constantly going to be, the Jeeva is going to be constantly in bondage of the Jagat, and the bhakti that he is going to be doing to Ishwara is not bhakti for Ishwara's sake, but bhakti for Jagat's sake. So really the prayer is for Jagat, not for Ishwara. Prayer to Ishwara, not for Ishwara, but for Jagat. That is what we saw. So Jiva Jagat Ishvara combination brings about the reality of the whole universe. And once the universe becomes real, then we start to think that our happiness will come from this universe. And then we are in trouble because the happiness is constantly around the corner we saw. And it never comes, right? Because happiness remains a constant destination which we never reach. We never see happiness as a journey. It's the first verse of Maya Panchakam. In the second verse of Maya Panchakam, he says that those who have mastered the Vedas and Upanishads, meaning they know it by heart, but are not practicing it. The aparoksha buddhi has not happened. Paroksha Agyana is there, but aparoksha buddhi has not happened. He says they are no better than four-legged animals if they are being tempted by wealth and possessions. Wealth and possessions being only symbols. They are not the only thing. Kanchana and Kamini is what is talked about by Kanchana and Kamini is talked about by Sri Ramakrishna. Just give me a minute. All right. So let's continue. All right. So he says that just reading the Vedas no point. Suna mana kiya to jana. Karni, the doing of the practice of it, the implementation of what is written in the Vedas in our day-to-day life becomes important. Otherwise, he says Maya makes the impossible. What is that? Aghatita ghatana patiyasi Maya. That's what Shankaracharya ends every verse with. Maya is skillful in accomplishing the impossible. So this is impossible. What is impossible? Those who should have read the Vedas and Upanishads should be above Maya, but it is not so. Why? Because they are not in a position to implement what they are read. Shastra Vasana has taken the place of Shastra Anubhuti. Okay. Then we saw what is the third thing that Maya does. It makes the imperishable Atman identify with the perishable body, and then we are thrown into the ocean of transmigratory existence. So we saw this, that this transmigratory existence can mean birth or death, or it can mean one desire dying and another desire cropping up, or it can mean our sleep one day and then getting up another day. So however we look at our transmigratory existence, the Maya does this for us and puts us into this happiness, sukha dukkha cycle. We are looking for permanent sukha, but we never find that permanent sukha in the world because sukha is followed by dukkha. Even sukha is tempered by, so I wanted money, I get money, but it is tempered by greed. See? So the sukha is not unadulterated. It is adulterated with greed. It is adulterated with fear of loss of the money that I've got, etc. Right? So there is a problem there. So those are the points that we saw. And the fourth part also showed us how the Maya makes the appearance in the form of passion for Sutta, Dara and Geha, which is son, wife and house, right? And that blissful consciousness which is free from any qualities, it makes the quality, color, caste, everything appear, right? So that I am a Brahmana, Brahman, these all become big things in my mind. And I put myself when I start to think that I'm superior to the next person, which is not the case at all. There is no superiority, there is no inferiority. Ekameva Advitya exists. But Maya makes that impossible possible. And then the fifth one, it says that Hari and Hara, there is no difference. But Maya introduces that difference of Brahma, Hari and Hara as a creation.
Sorry to interrupt. There is some issue with the audio from your end. It's not coming continuous.
Is this better or
same? Or? This is better. This is better.
Okay, let me try this. I'm going to remove my earphone, and now you tell me whether this is better than with the earphone on.
I think this is better, sir.
This is better. Okay, so let's continue with this now. So Maya makes the impossible possible, where we start thinking about creation, maintenance, and destruction, where there is one unitary substratum which is neither created nor maintained nor destroyed. Right? That's what Maya makes happen. And finally, we saw Bhagwad Gita, chapter 7, verse 25, where he says, I'm veiled by my Yoga Maya, and I'm in a position where people don't recognize me. The unborn, unperishable, supreme deity is not recognized by people. So we saw that we go about in the world seeing our husband, wife, brother, sister, mother, father, mother-in-law, father-in-law, but we are unable to see in this world the substratum, which is the Lord, who is the substratum of the whole universe. We are unable to see him. So this much is a summary of what we saw till yesterday. I can pause for a couple of minutes to see if there are any questions with regard to yesterday's session, which we want to take now. Are there any questions? Should I open the question answer piece and see if there, or you can choose any question that you think is suitable for answering now, or we can move on either ways.
Sure. Let's just give it a minute to see if there is any question.
We can just check that and then we can move on if there are none, or if you want to take them towards the end. If they are more related to how to deal with Maya, we can do them towards the end.
Sure. I think we can take them towards the end, Srinivas. We don't have any questions at the moment.
So is there a way to deal with Maya? It says low system resources may affect your video quality. It keeps coming. Nothing else on. So we'll continue. I think there is some issue at my end also where it keeps telling me low system resources are impacting your audio. Let me know intermittently if the audio quality goes bad, then I will try and do something from my end also. Okay. All right. So the first question before we ask ourselves, is there a way to deal with Maya? We have to ask ourselves, who can deal with Maya, right? Who can deal with it? Is there an adhikaritva that is needed? Is there a person with a particular type of authority who can alone deal with this Maya? That question we have to ask first. So for that, we take help from Vedanta Sara. I have taken the help from Chinmaya Mission's online information available. So thanks to them. So the first part that Vedanta Sara talks about in verse number 1.6 is this competent student, right? Because for Maya to be tackled, we need a competent student first. That is the most important requirement. Who is a competent student? And for that, the definition is given. By studying in accordance with the prescribed methods, the Vedas and Vedangas, has obtained a general comprehension of the entire Vedas. See, he has understood that there is something called the path of spirituality. He has understood that in the path of spirituality, there is something called Atman or Brahman, which is different to body, mind, intellect. He or she has understood that the real purpose of human life is to realize oneself and to attain Jivan Mukti, liberation whilst living in this body. Right? This is a general comprehension of the Vedas, right? Doesn't mean, I don't think this at all means that the student is an adhikari who has read all the Vedas fully, right? That would be an impossibility in these days and times, and nobody would be a competent student except a person who is studying in a Gurukula. Then we would all be incompetent to be a competent student. I think it is more to do with the fact, the way I look at it, is that it is to do with the fact that this is a person who has understood that there is a purpose in life beyond the worldly purpose. The worldly purpose is there because I'm a grahastha, but beyond that worldly purpose, there is a further purpose in life. That much he has understood. Therefore, mumukshatva is arisen. So let's talk about that in a bit. Then he says, who has in this or in a previous life, right? He has avoided kamya and nishiddha actions. Nitya, Naimittika, Prayashchita and Upasana actions he meticulously performs. And by these he becomes purified from all sins and entirely pure in mind. Why does he say in this or previous life? Because this Adhyatmika path is the only and only one that can be carried forward into our next life. The Lord himself gives us an assurance in chapter 6 where he says in response to Arjuna's question, where Arjuna says, what happens? You are telling me so many things to do. But what happens, Arjuna says, if I find myself in a space where neither have I reached the destination that you are talking about, which is liberation, nor have I enjoyed the world. So I am, Trishangu Swarga. I am in the middle, hung in middle. So what happens then? Arjuna asks the Lord, and the Lord clearly answers Arjuna to say that, look, in this path, there is no wastage of effort. And he says that wherever you have reached in this path thus far, he says, what I will do is I will allow you to move forward in your path from next life, from where you left off in the previous life. See, he calls themselves yoga brashtas. He says, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Vijayate. You will be born in pious but rich households where you can continue your journey on the spiritual path. One type of Yoga Brashta. This is the type of Yoga Brashta who has progressed on the spiritual path, but yet not yet has become desireless. Desirelessness has not come. Therefore, he is born in the house of Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. Shuchinam meaning that which is rich and also pious. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe, right? Because he can continue executing on his desires which are still not completed, and yet continue on the spiritual path from where he left off in the previous birth. The other type of Yoga Brashta, he says, is a person who is going to be born in a poor Brahmin's house, and he starts his journey right from birth itself because he attained a high degree of spiritual awareness in the previous birth but did not realize himself. So therefore, he's saying who in this or previous life. Yeah. So has done actions to purify his mind and rid himself of sins. And then he says, who has done sadhana chatushtaya to qualify himself with means for this path. So what is the sadhana chatushtaya? The sadhana chatushtaya is a fourfold qualification for being a student, for being a sadhaka. What are that fourfold qualification? Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti and Mumukshatva. Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti and Mumukshatva. So let's look at each one of them in turn, because very important to study this, because many a times we study on the spiritual path and find there is not much progress happening, right? And then we start to blame either the satsanga we are attending or the book we are reading or the practices suggested by the master for the purposes of our getting rid of Maya, etc. And we start to think maybe they are ineffective without looking at and understanding how do I become competent as a student. Just like there is a competency exam if you want to enter IIT, right? You have to write JEE Advanced. If you want to enter medicine, you have to write NEET. You have to get a particular number of marks in NEET, 500 plus if you want to get a general seat. So there are those conditionalities which you fully accept in the world, right? Similarly, for Adhyatma also, there are a set of conditionalities which are these, right? Okay. Now, the sadhana chatushtaya is the last condition which he lays, which is sadhana chatushtaya sampannaha pramata. Pramata meaning the person who is ready to qualify himself for this path. Okay. What is the sadhana chatushtaya? Viveka. What is Viveka? Nitya anitya vastu viveka iti viveka. Meaning the person should start understanding what is nitya and what is anitya. Very important requirement, right? Meaning you should start to question that I thought the world is nitya. I thought my position in the office is nitya. But today they told me that you are such a good person, be a good person at home. Meaning we are offering BRS to you, bye-bye, get lost, right? So I thought it was nitya, but it is actually anitya. See, I was the favorite of my boss till somebody else came in and started offering the boss his favorite beverage, which was, Starbucks coffee. I was not offering him Starbucks coffee. I was only offering him good work. But suddenly my favorite, I was the boss's favorite. That other person becomes the boss's favorite. So what happened to my position? Anitya. See, I invested a lot in the stock market. The stock which I invested went up and up and up and up and up and up, and then came down and down and down and down and down and down. And I lost all the money invested in that stock because there was some ghafla with the management did. What happened to the money? Anitya. So this is a person who has understood that the world and its contents are anitya. Doesn't mean he has given up the world yet. It just means that he has understood the anityata, the temporariness of the world. And that vichara he is constantly doing. Nitya anitya vastu viveka vicharaha. The person who does this, from the tree of viveka comes the fruit of vairagya. From the tree of viveka comes the fruit of vairagya. So vairagya happens as a consequence of viveka ripening. When viveka sufficiently ripens, then the world leaves us. Our desires in the world start to get sublimated, not suppressed, sublimated. By knowledge, we understand that those desires are not good for us, and therefore we stop those desires, or those desires disappear, they drop. Example. Previously, I was eating gulab jamun. Then I understood. I started walking also. I was walking 8,000 steps a day, 10,000 steps a day. Very difficult to do 8,000, 10,000 steps a day because you have to walk for 1.5 to 1 hour, 45 minutes at a particular pace to get the benefit of 8,000, 10,000 steps a day. Then I understood that one gulab jamun of Haldiram or whatever brand I'm buying, the big one, is 1000 calories. And that is 10,000 steps. See? So what happened? The knowledge dawned on me that one gulab jamun equal to 10,000 steps. And therefore, what happened? The craving for gulab jamun automatically dropped. Vairagya happened for that gulab jamun. I didn't have to do tyag of that gulab jamun. Forcibly, I didn't need to give it up. It automatically dropped because the Gyan played its part. Viveka fructifying into Vairagya. Then there is Shad Sampatti. See, Shad Sampatti is, what are the Shad Sampattis? Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha and Samadhana. What is Shama? Restraining of the mind, right? What is Dama? Restraining of the senses. What is Uparati? Natu Bhakya Vastu Anavalambanam. See? So, no dependence on external objects, on external Vastu Vyakti Parasthiti for my happiness. Uparati. What is Titiksha? He says, Sahanam Sarva Dukkhanam Chinta Vilaparahitam. I'm quoting from Vivekachoodamani, 23rd verse onwards of Vivekachoodamani. The Shat Sampatis are very beautifully explained. 20th verse onwards, Sadhana Chatushaya is very beautifully explained, right? You can read it in your own time. So 23rd verse onwards, Titiksha is defined as Sahanam Sarva Dukkhanam Chinta Vilaparahitam, meaning I am ready to bear all the dukkha that comes in the world without chinta and vilapa. Chinta, worries, vilapa, constantly talking about my dukkha, vilapa. Rahitam, without those two, I am able to bear the unhappiness. What is Shraddha? So we saw Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha. Then Shraddha. What is Shraddha? Shraddha means it is the Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satya Buddhi Avadharana iti Shraddha. Meaning the attitude of mind that says that the words of the Guru and the Shastras are true is Shraddha. Right? Without that attitude of mind, whatever we read will not sit well with us because we'll have constant questions about Inko kaise malum? What was told 5,000 years ago? What was told 1,000 years ago when there was no Instagram, no Facebook, no Twitter, no competitive world, no requirement to earn money and grow in corporate life? How do they know that what they are saying is true? That type of doubts will start to appear in us if we don't have Shraddha. What is Samadhana? Samadhana says Natu Chittasya Lalanam. It is the ability to keep your mind calm, not just Manolaya, but Manonnasha. Right? That is Samadhana. That is Sadhana Chatushtaya. So if the competent student studies what is being asked for, then the knowledge settles immediately. Now we must understand this, right? In NEET, in IIT entrances, there are people who get ranked between 1 and 100 or 1 and 200, let's say in IIT JEE Advanced. They are the people who are going to get computer science, okay, in the top 5 IITs, let's say. The top 200 are going to get computer science in the top 5 IITs. The 200 to 500 are going to get electrical engineering if they are interested in it. They will take electrical engineering in the top 5 IITs. And so on and so forth. The rank list goes down till you come down to 6, 7, 8,000 when you can't get top 5 IITs at all. Giving example, okay, from the worldly life. Therefore, there are varying competencies of the students, basis which they get varying branches and varying IITs. That we agree with, isn't it? So similarly, in the case of Adhyatma also, there are varying competencies. One is called a Uchadhikari, one is called a Madhyamadhikari, one is called a Kanishtadhikari. For a Uchadhikari, what will happen? He will satisfy A1, A2, A3 fully, meaning Sadhana Chatushtaya will be Sampanna, meaning he will have Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti and Mumukshatva. Sorry, we didn't define Mumukshatva. Mumukshatva is an intense desire for liberation. See? And Vivekachoodamani says, Mumukshatva is the most important quality needed. Even if you have Viveka, Vairagya and Shat Sampatti, but you don't have Mumukshatva, he says those three will be like a mirage in a desert. See? So Mumukshatva is the most important quality, the intense desire for liberation. Come what may, I will liberate myself in this lifetime. That is Mumukshatva. Right? Like Lokmanya Tilak said, and I'm paraphrasing him in a different way, Jivan Mukti is my birthright and I shall have it. That is Mumukshatva. Right? That is the fourth Sadhana Chatushtaya, fourth of the Sadhana Chatushtaya, which is missed. But let's come back to this topic. What did we say? Competencies. So if the student is fully competent, then what happens is the Guru tells him Prajnana Brahma. This consciousness is Brahman. And then the Guru tells him, Tattvamasi, that consciousness you are. This Uchchadhikari immediately meditates on that statement of the Guru and says, I am Atma Brahman. He responds, I am Atma Brahman. This Atman inside me is that Brahman. I understand that, O Guru. Very soon he responds, right? And then he says, Aham Brahmasmi. So the Uchchadhikari who has all three aspects of this competency of the student fully established, quickly goes to liberation. That's all is the difference. What about Madhyama and Kanishta Adhikari? They have to do a lot more work. Even though to the Madhyama and Kanishta Adhikari also, the Guru says, what? Prajnanam Brahma Tattvamasi. It is not that the Madhyama and the Kanishta Adhikari don't understand it. It is not difficult to understand that I am consciousness. That consciousness is the only tangible thing available. It is not difficult to understand that. But yet, that understanding, Paroksha Jnana, does not convert itself into Aparoksha Anubhuti, does not convert itself into actual experience. Why? Because there is mala or impurity of the mind standing in between. So the Madhyama and the Kanishta Adhikari needs to do a lot more work to remove the mala before the mind settles down fully. That is the difference. The knowledge is the same for all, whether it is Uchcha, Kanishta or Madhyama Adhikari. Right? I'm still audible, right? No problem with the audio?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, we should understand that, and therefore we should not be, thrown off by saying that, my God, competent student go, all this the competent student knows. Well, Vedanta or Adhyatma is not for me. That is like the student who has ranked 6,000 saying IIT is not for me. Well, he will get an IIT. He will get IIT Guwahati, Hyderabad, Roorkee, Dhanbad, something he will get, right? He will not get Bombay or Kanpur or whatever, or a person may not get general category, he may get in private category in medicine. That we accept in the world, isn't it? Similarly, we should accept in Vedanta that some will progress faster. Why? Because the competency of the student is higher. Some will progress slower. The competency of the student is lesser. Therefore, in Bhagwad Gita, in Vivekachoodamani, time and again, Shankara, Krishna, everybody talks about Shanai, slowly, because he knows the vast majority of people are not Uttama Adhikaris. They are not the people with the full competency. The vast majority of the people are Madhyama and Kanishta Adhikaris. No bad commentary that. Okay, it's not to mean to say that we look down upon Madhyama and Kanishta Adhikaris. It is huge grace of Lord that we are able to come to the path of Adhyatma. Please remember that. Without the Lord's grace, we cannot even come to the path of Adhyatma. So, huge grace of Lord is required. In Vivekachoodamani, it is said that you have to weigh the punya of 100 billion well-lived lives. 100 billion, B for billion, not M for million. 100 billion well-lived lives you have to weigh in one side. And if you trade that away, then you can come onto the path of Adhyatma and have mumukshatva. See? Amazing, no? So that is the favor or grace that has been bestowed on us. So now, what should this competent student do? Okay, I have got some competency. I may not have the competency required for the Uttama Adhikari, but I am Madhyama Kanishta Adhikari. Very good. So you are competent then. Okay, good. What he should do? If such a qualified pupil, very importantly, what should happen to that pupil? He should be scorched with the fire of an endless round of birth and death. Vedanta Sara says that, Vivekachoodamani says that as well. See, the disciple goes to the master to ask 7 questions. Before he asks, he says, I am scorched by this forest fire of samsara, he says. So for a competent student, what will happen automatically is, the world will not seem to be a wonderful, amazing, comfortable place. See, there'll be discomfort in the world. Why? Because I'm successful in the world, but yet I don't find contentment. I'm successful in the world, but yet I don't find myself always happy. I'm successful in the world, yet I don't have full peace of mind. Why is that? Right? That question torments the person like a forest fire. So what he does, as one with his head on fire rushes to a lake. How he defines it. Like one whose head is on fire rushes to a lake. What he does? He rushes to a guru with presents in hand. We will talk about what those presents are in a minute. Gita defines what those presents are. Who is that guru? Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. See, Shrotriyam meaning one who is learned in the Vedas and one ever living in Brahman. Brahmanishtam Shrotriyam. Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Guru. What he should do? Let him go to such a guru and tam anusarati. Let him serve him. What does the Gita say? The Gita says that Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanena sattva darshinaha. See, it says you must go and fall at the feet of the guru and you must serve him. What is falling at the feet of the guru? I am ready to give up my ideas. Falling at the feet of the guru is good, physically falling. But if the guru is thousands of miles away and giving you instructions, then what? Then falling up the feet of the guru is giving up my ideas. What is serving the guru? Adopting his ideas in my life. These two are most important and also the most difficult things to do. See, please remember that. Most important and most difficult things to do are this. Falling at the feet of the guru and serving the guru in this manner. See, physically falling at the feet of the guru is very easy. Doing physical Pada Seva of the guru is very easy. Because that doesn't require me to give up my ego. Little bit ego is to be given up. But still, I am ready to do that. It's a one-off exercise. But if I am to give up my ideas on a day-to-day basis, my God. If I am to adopt the guru's ideas on a day-to-day basis, even more difficult. So, competency of the disciple to one side. What should not happen when the disciple is competent? He should not get ego. He should not think, oh my God, not only I am avoiding Kamya and Naishuddha Karma, I am doing Nitya Naimittika Prayaschitta Upasana Karma. I am generally knowledgeable about the Vedas and Vedangas. I have got the Sadhana Chatushtaya in whatever degree. I must be a great disciple. I must find myself a great guru. No, what has happened? Pride has come in. Discipleship is destroyed. Even when the guru is available, what will happen? It will be like the greatest degree of darkness is under the lamp. See, under the lamp is the greatest degree of darkness. That is what will happen to me. If I go to the guru with great pride in my mind, what is this pride? Humko ye sab, all this which the competent student is supposed to have, I am having. Now, what is the problem? I have to find myself a good guru. Sorry. Yeah. I have to be ready to give up my ideas and adopt the ideas of the guru. Now, these two admittedly have nothing to do with Maya. Remember that. The topic was Maya and you are saying, why is this person talking about competent student going to guru? Right? Because the entire instruction is wasted if these two are not clearly understood. The entire Gita knowledge was started by the Lord only after the 7th verse of the 2nd chapter. Till then, the Lord doesn't speak much. Only Arjuna speaks. Remember that. When does it start? When Arjuna says, I am confused as to my duty. Pray, accept me as your disciple. Sishyaste aham swadimam tvam prapannam. Sishyaste aham. He says, I am your disciple. Pray, instruct me because I don't know what to do. Most important part. Till I come to that place, what we are going to talk about now will not be of any use. Because it will militate. It will fight with the already existing knowledge inside myself. And if it doesn't agree with the knowledge inside myself, it will be of no use because it will lose. Because this knowledge is from outside. Why is this so very important for us? Because we did not go to the guru at the age of 7 or 8. At the age of 7 or 8, we know nothing. The slate is clean. The guru can write what he wants on the slate and immediately it is imprinted. But we are coming to the path of spirituality. Most of us, at least on the call and who will listen to the call later, are coming to this path of spirituality 40, 45. When our slate is already filled with a lot of our own thoughts, our own ideas, experiences, etc. Think. So unless and until I imbibe these two parts, what two parts? Competency of a student and that competent student ready to surrender to the Guru. With what keenness he is surrendering? As if the person's head is on fire, hair on his head is on fire, and how he rushes to the lake. With that keenness, he is rushing to the Guru to surrender. Picture that in your mind for a minute, because this constitutes the crux of our discussion. And this also constitutes why many Adhyatmic endeavors come to naught. Okay, so with that, we will move to the real part, as to not the real part, the other part, which is how to deal with Maya. Who can deal with Maya, we saw. Now we will see how to deal with this Maya. So we will pick up the Bhagwad Gita first. Again, we are going to rely on multiple texts. This is an unending topic. How to deal with Maya can be talked about for the next 1 year, 1.5 hour sessions for the next year, every week. Still, you will not complete it. Because every aspect of every scripture is about taking us towards liberation. And what is liberation? Liberation from Agyana, avidya. That's what liberation is all about. So the whole scriptural edifice is for bringing us out of Maya. So we are picking up some parts of that scriptural edifice. Don't think these are the only parts where Lord talks about how to get out of Maya. Right? I want to caveat tempter, buyer beware. These are just parts which I like. Yeah. I like to talk about them. I like to think about them. I like to implement them in my lives. Therefore, I picked it up. So first part I picked up from Bhagwad Gita. What is the first verse I picked up? Devi Hesha Gunamayi, which we already saw. Right? This is impossible cross. But how you must cross? Those who constantly adore me alone cross. Mam eva prapadyante. Eva is very important there. Mam eva prapadyante. Eva can be constantly. Eva can be only Lord. Mam eva prapadyante. Meaning adore only the God or constantly adore only the God. See, why does he use the word eva there? Why is he using the word eva? Why is eva important there? That we have to understand very clearly. Because we are trying to ride in two boats in our life. One boat called the world and one boat called God. None of us who come to this session, none of us who are going to see this on YouTube later, will ever put ourselves into a position where we'll say, we have no interest in Adhyatma. We don't know why we are listening to this talk. No, we're not going to put ourselves in that position. We know we are interested in Adhyatma. We know why we are listening to this talk. We also know we are interested in the world. So we also want God. We don't want only God. Remember that. So he says, Mam eva prapadyante. What is my prapatti to? What am I surrendering to? Prapadyante, surrendering to, adoring. What am I adoring? My position, my wealth, the achievements of my children, the achievements of my grandchildren. In this time and age, the achievement of getting a 10-year multiple re-entry on your US on your passport. My God, what an achievement. So proud. So Param Pujya Guruji, under whose auspices I learned a lot and I continue to learn. I'm continuing to be a learner. He tells us there is nothing in this life which we are not proud of. We are proud of just about everything in this life. There is nothing we are not proud of. See? From the trinkets we have kept in the shelf in the bathroom to the trinkets we have kept on the side table next to the sofa. Guruji calls them dust collectors because somebody has to dust them constantly. Otherwise, they will gather dust. We adore them. We believe that our identity is linked to them. Whereas what the Lord says, adore me constantly. The Lord is saying, adore him constantly. So for the worldly person, this is anathema. This is not acceptable. Because the immediate question that arises is, how can one adore the Lord constantly? How is it possible? Constantly? Really? Possible? How is it possible? I have work to do, no? I'm going to office. I'm cooking at home. I'm doing jhadu pocha at home. I have to look after my father-in-law, mother-in-law, children, small children are there at home. How is it possible to adore the Lord constantly? Because immediately the picture that comes to our mind when the Lord says, adore me constantly, the picture that comes to our mind is somebody sitting at the altar doing puja constantly. Nothing could be further from the truth. Yes, that is one way to adore the Lord. Sitting at your altar and doing puja. But that is only one way to adore the Lord, not the only way. See, you are doing sweeping of the floor. What prevents you, what prevents you from singing bhajans whilst you are sweeping the floor? Okay, nobody wants to hear your bhajans because you're singing them loudly. Don't worry about it. What prevents you from doing japa while sweeping the floor? What prevents you, you are sitting in your Ola or Uber, what prevents you from doing japa silently in your mind whilst you are sitting in your Ola or Uber going towards your office? See, after lunch in the office, you are coming out for a walk. What prevents you from making it a solitary walk with God? What prevents you from taking notes of the sessions that you are hearing in bullet point form and during the day reviewing those notes for the purpose of imprinting those thoughts in your mind? What prevents you from taking a little time off from work, a week, 10 days, and doing some nishkama seva? All these are constantly adoring the Lord only. Nobody is saying, whilst you are doing the presentation to your boss, you start to chant Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, because you're supposed to constantly adore the Lord. No, common sense applies. At that time, your focus has got to be on delivering the presentation well. So when he says constantly, look for all those gaps in our timeline where we can adore the Lord. Then we are constantly adoring. Again, common sense applies. You are frying puris, right, in hot oil. Don't get lost in the bhajans of the Lord, because instead of frying puris, you might end up frying your hand. You are driving the car. You're not an Ola Uber. You're driving the car. Don't get lost in the bhajan. Hare Rama. Your eyes are closed and you're in the bhajan, accident happens. No point in that. Common sense applies at all times. When you're doing dangerous tasks, no need to get lean into the Lord. Yeah. Before you do the task, you can get lean in the Lord. So before you start driving, you can say, Parthasarathi, please be my Sarathi. How beautiful it is to say that. See, Parthasarathi, please be my Sarathi. He can come with you as a Sarathi before you start driving. See, when you go out of the house to your office, say to the Lord, please Lord, come with me and protect me in the journey to the office. When you're coming back from the office and you come back home, ring the bell again and tell the Lord, thank you Lord for protecting me and thank you Lord for being there for me. See, when you're yawning, coughing, sneezing, take the name of the Lord. See, when you're about to sleep, take the name of the Lord. When you've just woken up from bed but not got off your bed, you just woken up but not got off your bed, take the name of the Lord. When you're taking bath, take the name of the Lord. When you're putting anything in your mouth, say Krishna Arpanamastu. Water. See, you drink water. I like this. Say Krishna Arpanamastu. No need to say that out loud also. You can say that in your mind. No problem there. See? So can I do all of that? In every small gap that I get, can I include the Lord? So can I include a little bit of the Lord in everything that I do? 2 liters of milk does not require 2 liters of curd to make curd. No, it requires 2 spoonfuls of curd. That's all. You need to mix 2 spoonfuls of curd into 2 liters of milk. Keep it aside, and then it will become the whole 2 liters will become curd. Think. So like that, in my innumerable activities in the world, can I add a little bit of Lord is the question that I have to ask. That is how I constantly adore the Lord. Then what? Drawing back the restless mind from the objects it runs after, repeatedly fixed on God. 6.26. The Lord knows that the next question that we are going to say is, Bapre, it is all fine, you are saying this, but it is extremely hard. The Lord himself is saying, yes, it is hard, Baba. The mind will repeatedly run after Vastu Vyakti Parasthiti, after objects. What is he saying? Draw it back and repeatedly fix it on God. The Lord is not saying that just by listening, your mind will become sthira. No, it will not. So you draw back the restless mind and repeatedly fix it on God. That is the practice. That is the abhyasa. See? If I do this abhyasa, then over a period of time, a habit will form. See, I am chanting Ram, 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 Ram. And suddenly my mind goes from Ram, Ram to Ram Sharan Dudwala Bhaiya, my milkman, who's giving me milk. Yesterday, he told me he's given 2 liters, but actually it was only 1.5 liters. So the Dudwala Bhaiya is actually cheating me, right? What is this world coming to? Everybody is cheating me. Everybody is a cheater. Outside also, I see the road full of potholes. The road is full of potholes because the contractor is cheating the people who are taking the money. What is this world coming to? Look at America, what is happening with Trump. My God, it's a big problem. And whole America is going to come down and such a useless country, blah, blah, blah. Where did it start? Ram, 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 Ram. He said to mine, no. When it goes to Ramcharan Dudwala Bhaiya, he says, sorry. No Ramcharan Dudwala Bhaiya. Bring it back. Ram, 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 Ram. Then the mind goes to Ram Krishna in the office. Idiot fellow who joined recently, who is giving cappuccino, Starbucks cappuccino to the boss, right? And has become the boss's best friend. Useless fellow. And the boss is going to give the promotion to him. I am working the hardest in the office. I am the longest in the office. I should get promotion. I am not going to get promotion. It is such a sad thing. I am very upset. Where did it come from? Ram, 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 Ram. You say, sorry. The moment it says Ram, 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 Ramakrishna, useless fellow, you say it's mine. No. Come back. Ram, 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 Ram. That is the advantage of a single name you are taking. You know when the mind is stressed. Many people tell me, when I sit to chant or meditate, my mind runs everywhere. Not true. The mind is running everywhere all the time. But when I have given the mind one thing to do, Ram, 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 against that one thing, the movement of the mind becomes visible. And one chant Ram, 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 Ram. Now the movement becomes visible for the first time. I consciously see the movement. I consciously bring the mind back to where? I bring the mind back to Ram, 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 Ram. Drawing back the restless mind from all the objects it runs after, repeatedly fix it on God. Why I should do that? Because those who constantly adore me alone cross Maya. Think. Those who constantly adore me alone cross Maya. That is what was said in 7:14. Then the last verse of Bhagwad Gita. Who should do this? Don't think, ayyo, this is such a good thing. My mother-in-law should do this. Ayyo, this is such a good thing. Very good for my wife. No. Who should be doing this? I should be doing this. For the spiritual work, who is the responsible person? I am the responsible person. So, udharet atmana atmanam na atmanam avasadet. Atmaive hatmano bandhu. Atmaive puratmanaha. One should lift oneself by one's own effort and should not degrade oneself. I should lift myself by my own effort. I am my own best friend and I am my own worst enemy. And in 6.6, he clarifies that one who has achieved victory over his body, mind, and senses, one who has achieved victory over his body, mind, and senses is the person who has his best friend. Otherwise, he is his worst enemy. So we took it top down. Now let us take it bottom up. I must win a victory over my body, mind, and senses. Meaning I must be able to deploy my body, mind, and senses to the task at hand. What is the task at hand now for the participants in this call? To listen to the call and to take notes. Where if they want to, they can take notes, right? So I must be able to deploy my body, mind, and senses for that purpose. If I'm able to deploy at my will, my body, mind, and senses to the task at hand, I have achieved victory over my body, mind, and senses. Then I'm my best friend. Then I can lift myself. What is this lifting myself? Then the mind, which is repeatedly running after objects, can be brought back and fixed on God. When the mind is repeatedly fixed on God, then I can constantly adore God. When I constantly adore God, then alone I can cross Maya. Think. So whether you take it top down or bottom up, it still makes sense. Think about it. So this is from the Bhagwad Gita of how to cross Maya. Then we will take from Bhagwatam. Canto 11, we saw the same chapter 3, Canto 11, verse 17. What did the king ask? He asked first, what is Maya, right? Then the next question he asked in verse 17 of the same chapter is, he says, oh sage, please tell me how this Maya is conquered. See how it is conquered? By who? Sthula Diyo. By one who is Sthula Diyo, meaning by one of gross intellect. Right? Though Maya is difficult for men of no self-control to go beyond. He says, I understand. Sthula Diyo means he has not won over victory over his body, mind and senses. For that person also, he says, I want victory. How to do that? Please tell me. Very useful question, isn't it? Because many of us find ourselves in a position where we have not achieved victory over our mind, body or senses fully. So, how to go beyond Maya, even for those people, is being asked here. Very useful question. Pipalayana Rishi answers the question for the purposes of this part. And what does he say? Here is a quick summary of that. The entire chapter 3 is predominantly in answer to this question. Right? So first things first, he says that one must worship a guru. Because without worshipping a guru, he says, the mind will not come out of sense objects. Why? Because the Viveka will not be available to us. Who gives us Viveka? The Guru gives us Viveka. Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka Vicharaha. Who gives us this? The Guru gives us this. Time and time again, he reminds us what is Nitya Vastu, what is Anitya Vastu. So without worshipping a Guru, we cannot put ourselves in a position where there is apathy to sense objects. Think. You want to develop apathy towards sense objects? What are these sense objects? Broadly split them into Kanchan and Kamini. Kanchan, gold, Kamini, woman. Why Kanchan and Kamini? Because Kanchan, gold, represents the ability to acquire, desire to acquire. Kanchan. What about Kamini, woman? The desire to enjoy. Acquisition, enjoyment. These are the two parts of desire. So therefore, Kanchan and Kamini are given as symbols in this chapter of saying what are the problems with this desire to acquire and enjoy. It says, look at Kanchana. If you don't have money, it's a problem. If you have money, yeah, then there is a problem. Vitte income tax bhayam. See, Vitte income tax bhayam. We are afraid of income tax when we have Vitta. See, Chora bhayam. We are afraid thieves will come and rob our wealth. See, if there is wealth, there is problem. If there is no wealth, there is a problem. See, earning of wealth, also there is a problem. It is not easy to earn wealth. It is difficult to earn wealth. See, so whichever way you look at it, whether it is there, not there, or for earning, all three places you got problems. What about Kamini? Oh my God, we don't have to talk about that at all. Desire for enjoyment is deep-rooted, very difficult to remove. Whether it be lust or sex, or whether it be liking for gulab jamun, or for some sweet, or for some farsan, or for some tikha, meetha, whatever it is, whichever sense organ it is that we are desiring to enjoy with, very deep-rooted, very difficult to remove. But he says if you worship a guru, then you can remove it. Who is a guru? Next question. What are the hallmarks of a guru? Wonderfully given in this chapter. What are the hallmarks of a guru to whom you need to go and worship? We already saw Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam. Agreed? Those two are givens. That he must be knowledgeable in the Vedas and he must be forever living in Brahman. We saw in Vedanta Sara. More qualities are given. He says Guru is one in whom, because Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam, we cannot check. We cannot find out because those are internal qualities of the Guru. But he says that the Guru in profound peace, all the time he is at peace. Whatever the circumstances, he is peaceful. Then he is a Guru. See, this we can check. The Guru is a person, he says, never makes the disciple do any work, but he does work for the disciple. He says such a Guru is a Guru. He says it is beyond all relations, meaning if the Guru is in Grahastha Ashrama, wife calls him husband or husband calls him wife, children call him father, but to the children and to the wife is neither father nor husband. He is forever posited in Brahman. See? And then he says that he is full of compassion for us because we are the ignorant people, full of compassion, ready to repeatedly instruct us in the scriptures. Some qualities are given. He has given a lot more qualities. To such a Sadguru, he says, you must surrender. To such a Guru, he says, surrender. Without worship of Guru, no progress is possible on the spiritual path. Okay, we find a guru. What are the qualities of disciple? We already saw qualities of competent student, right? What is that? That he does all his karmas properly. He has general knowledge of Vedas and Vedangas, and he has sadhana chatushtaya. More qualities are given here. And those qualities are that he is having love for the guru, that he is ready to do whatever work the guru assigns him. The harder the task the guru gives him, the more eager he is to accomplish it, right? He is having shraddha in the words of the guru. All these he talks about. Then such a disciple then becomes a devotee. Such a devotee then becomes ready to listen to the Lord's stories. He is in love with the Lord. He is ready to listen to the Lord's stories. He is always ready to sing bhajans of the Lord. He is ready to do namasmarana of the Lord. All that happens with the devotee. And as a consequence of that, he gets connected to God. Because he has become antarmukhi. He has acquired a taste for nama. He is now connected to God. He is understanding that even if he is given 1,000,000 rupees, he will not waste a minute. Use every minute for devotion to God. Because God now resides in the heart of this devotee. And therefore, Maya runs away from the heart of such a devotee. Because in the heart, Prema gali ati sakhari, jame do na samaye. Jab main tha to hari nahi, jab hari tha to main nahi. This is Kabir. He says that the lane of love is very, very narrow. When the ego was there, the Lord was not there. When the Lord was there, the ego was not there. So once the Lord resides in the heart of this devotee, Maya runs away from such a devotee. This is a very, very quick and very summarized overview of the wonderful parts of, really, really wonderful parts of the 11th chapter, 11th canto, chapter 3, verse 17 onwards to the end of the chapter. So when the Lord resides in the heart of such a devotee, what happens? He says there is love for hearing the stories of the Lord. The person who asks to recite the story, like Nitinji asked me to recite this, and the person who is reciting it, that is me, and the persons who are hearing it, that is the participants. All three are blessed, he says. The person who asked it, the person who is reciting it, and the persons who are hearing it. All three are blessed, he says. Right? And then he says, by keenly implementing the advice of the Guru, ego disappears from the heart of the disciple and the devotee, and therefore the phantom of the world no more troubles this devotee. Maya therefore runs away from such a devotee. Beautiful part of Bhagwatam, where he is giving a detailed explanation for the normal person, how to take the path of devotion for the purpose of coming out of Maya. And then finally, in the last verse or 33rd verse of this chapter, he says, thus learning and following the ways of the life of Bhagavatas, his devotion developing into divine love, the devotee easily crosses the otherwise unsurpassable Maya. See? So beautiful. In the same chapter or in the same canto, first question asked by King Nimi is, what is Bhagavata way of life, which Rishi Kavi answers. So if you want to read that, you can read that in canto 11. Probably it will be chapter 1 or 2 in canto 11. What is the Bhagavata way of life? Because there again, there is a detailed description of what is Bhagavata way of life, which we must read and assimilate and understand and implement. Suna, mana, kiya to jana. So thus learning and importantly, following the way of Bhagavata, meaning following the Bhagavata way of life. What happens? Devotion becomes divine love. So now, from I also wanted the Lord. That is how the question started. I wanted the world and I also wanted the Lord. Now I come to, I only want the Lord. Think. So divine love is, I am praying to God for God. I am not praying to God for various things of the world. No. I am praying to God for God. Please think. That is what is critical in this transition. From I also want God to I only want God. Can that happen immediately? Can that happen? I've heard this now. I'm going to read Canto 11, Chapter 3 from the internet. It is available very easily, right? All these verses I've copied from the internet only, right? But I've read Eknathi Bhagwat very in great detail. I would urge you to read Eknathi Bhagwat as well. The first 5 chapters of Eknathi Bhagwat address the question of Raja Nimi, the 9 questions of Raja Nimi to the Navayogis in great depth and detail. It is a joy to read it. It is amazing to read it. So I would urge everybody who's interested in this path to pick up Eknathi Bhagwat, available in English. The author of that translation is Divakar A. Ghaisas. I have no commission from him, don't worry. Just that I enjoyed the book. So I'm just giving you the name of the author, Divakar A. Ghaisas. He is no more. He passed away 2 years ago. So I have no connection in the form of commission or anything from him. So don't worry. But it's a brilliant book to read. So the Bhagavata way of life is further described that in addition to whatever description I have been able to give you as part of this recitation. Such a person who has divine love, that devotee easily crosses the otherwise impassable Maya. So let's take a quick recap of what we did thus far in the 3 parts of this how to cross Maya. Who can deal with it? The competent student, and such a qualified pupil having no pride of his competency goes to the Guru and says, as if his hair on his head is on fire, rushes to the lake. With that eagerness, he goes to the Guru and he is serving him, falling at his feet, meaning able to give up his ideas, adopt the ideas of the Guru, and then he becomes a competent student. Such a competent student, when he reads the Bhagwad Gita, he finds many, many verses, of which some I have chosen. Constantly adoring the Lord. How to constantly adore the Lord? You have to conquer your body. Then you become one's own friend, and then we are able to lift oneself up. What is lifting oneself up? Repeatedly fixing the mind on God is lifting oneself up. When we get into this practice, then we will be able to constantly adore the Lord and therefore be able to cross. We saw this from Bhagwad Gita, and then we saw this from Bhagavata. Before I proceed further, I wanted to see if there are any questions on what we have discussed. If there are any questions, we can take them. Otherwise, we can go to the next part. Q&A there. Mainly mic problem. Okay. So for does who am I address and dissolve Maya? Yes. If we constantly focus on who am I and we do neti neti for, neti neti, continuous neti neti, meaning not this, for what I otherwise believe myself to be. And we will address that in the session, which we will take up tomorrow, right? There is a 3rd session tomorrow, same time, 11 to 1, where we will pick up the Jnana Yoga way. Here we have picked up the way from a perspective of Bhakti Yoga, where we have addressed Bhagavatam, and we have also picked up the way to deal with Maya from a Bhagavad Gita perspective by focusing it on God, devotion again, dhyana or devotion again. Tomorrow we'll pick it up from a Jnana Yoga perspective. At that time, we will pick up neti neti, and we'll also pick up who am I and answering that question of who am I. How that helps to go over. Yeah, surely it does. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Can we get this Eknathi from Gita Press? PDF is available, and then this is not a Gita Press book. It is by a private publisher. This Eknathi Bhagwat, which I read, is from a private publisher, but you can get it from Gita Press also if they're available. Yeah. Today's session will continue up to 1 o'clock. Yeah. So with that, let us go to the next part of the this discussion on how to deal with Maya. Next part of this talk picks up from Ramcharitmanas. Remember, we picked up from Ramcharitmanas, where in Lakshmana Gita, in Aranya Kand, Lakshmana asked the question, what is Maya? And the Lord very beautifully replies saying, I and mine, you and yours is Maya. It is all living beings are under Maya, he says. All living beings are under Maya. That's what he says. God says that. very clearly. And he says that not only that, he says that if you take back, if I just hark back to that part of Ramcharitmanas, yeah, here it is, right? And he says whatever is perceived by the senses and whatever is perceived by the mind is Maya. Having defined Maya, the Lord is now going to give an answer of how to deal with Maya, right? So beautiful answers, very down to earth, earthy answers, because Ramcharitmanas is meant for the common folk, right? So the answers given here will be very earthy, very pithy, and very implementable immediately. So he says, Dharmate Birati, Jogate Jnana. From Dharma comes Birati, meaning dispassion comes from practice of Dharma. Dharma, Swadharma, right? And Jogate Jnana, spiritual wisdom comes from the practice of Yoga. Yoga can be interpreted in multiple ways, whether it be the Ashtanga Yoga of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, that Ashtanga Yoga you can think of, or you can think of Yoga as Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, those yogas. Spiritual wisdom comes from the practice of yoga. We can think of it either ways. I prefer to think of it as the yogas that are talked about in the Bhagwad Gita, which is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Raja Yoga, all these yogas which are talked about in the Bhagwad Gita. I prefer to think of them like that because I find the Bhagwad Gita is an amazing book for gaining spiritual wisdom. And then he says, Jnana Moksha Prada Veda Bakana. The Vedas say, he says, that Jnana, that spiritual wisdom bestows liberation. So he answers in the first verse itself how to get to liberation. Liberation from, of course, from what? From Maya only, right? So Lord is very clear. Dispassion comes from the practice of Dharma. Remember the qualities of a student? The qualities of a student where he is supposed to do his karma as ordained in the scriptures. He is supposed to do his karma because from that comes purity of mind and destruction of sins. Similar thing he is saying here. From practice of one's own swadharma, doing what you need to do. If you like what you need to do, hallelujah, great stuff, amazing for you. If you don't like what you need to do it anyway. That is karma yoga, right? Very simply put. Your likes and dislikes don't come into play when you are required to do practice your swadharma. Right? But of course, that karma needs to be done along the karma yoga principles. You have to practice karma yoga principles when you are doing that karma. That is very, very important. Karma yoga principles twofold. One is that you are ready to offer all fruits to Lord. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, meaning you're ready to offer the fruits to the Lord. Sorry, Ishvara Arpana Buddhi is you're ready to offer your action to the Lord. My mistake. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, you're ready to offer your actions to the Lord. Prasada Buddhi is you're ready to accept the fruits as prasada from the Lord. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, Prasada Buddhi. Two attitudes of mind that you start to cultivate when you're doing the actions. When you are able to do that for prolonged periods of time, then you are practicing your swadharma. And from that practice of swadharma comes dispassion or vairagya, right? Then he says spiritual wisdom comes from the practice of yoga. What is the spiritual wisdom that needs to come? It is this wisdom that what is the purpose of my life? See, Durlabham Traime Vetadana Deva Anugra Hetukam Manushyattam Mumukshattam Mahapurusha Samshaya. This is verse 2 of Vivekachoodamani, where Lord Shankaracharya says, Bhagavad Shankaracharya says that there are three things which are extremely rare in this world and they are available only due to God's grace. What are they? Manushyattam, being born as human being, Mumukshattam, the desire for liberation, and Mahapurusha Samshaya, meaning the discipleship of an illumined teacher. These three things are the rarest of rare gifts available only due to grace of God. So spiritual wisdom is knowing that I've got these three things. And what am I supposed to do with this? Next verse says that Kathanjanam Narajannam Labdva. Somehow you have got this human birth. Tatrapi Bumsatvam, and you got all your senses about you. Tatrapi Shrutipara Darshanam, and then you understand that there is something called the Shruti, and you start to understand the words of the Shruti. And then he says, then also you don't put in your full effort to practice what is said in the Shruti. He says you're a suicide. So spiritual wisdom means that not only have I come onto the path, but I'm willing to practice this, what is being said in this path. From that comes liberation. From that spiritual wisdom will come liberation. That's what he says. And then the Lord says in the next set of chopais under that Doha 15, that which melts my heart. Having talked about liberation, now the Lord talks about the easy way out. Remember, we are still talking about devotion as a means to rid ourselves of Maya. The Lord says that which melts my heart, Rama talking to Lakshmana. Remember that. The delight of my devotees. Mama Bhagati Bhagata Sukadai. Mama Bhagati Bhagata Sukadai. My Bhagat, meaning my devotees, become very happy, delighted with my devotion. What does it do? Begi Dravu my bhai. He says, it melts my heart completely. And he says this devotion is incomparable. And it is at the very root of bliss, but can be acquired only with the favor of a saint. Again, we come back to the presence of a guru in our lives. And again, we come back to the fact that a guru is absolutely necessary. Without that, even devotion cannot be had. So look at this. The Lord is saying, devotion melts my heart. It is the delight of my devotees. Devotion is incomparable. It is the very root of bliss. And it can be acquired only by the favor of a saint. Now, you might be thinking, Arey, ye devotion ka baat kar raha hai. What does devotion have got to do with this whole concept of Maya, how to deal with it? Hold your question. We will come to that. Right? Then he says, what is the means to attain devotion? See, Rama is complete in his answers. See, first he says, devotion melts my heart. Devotion is also the delight of my devotees. Then he says, how to cultivate this devotion? He says, you have to cultivate devotion to the feet of the Brahmanas. Now, who are these Brahmanas? Brahmanas are those who are walking the Brahmapata. Not necessarily those who are born in Brahmana Kula. It is not only by being born a Brahmana that one becomes a Brahmana. Not necessary. That is one condition. But that is not the only condition. Right? The sufficient condition is that one needs to be walking the Brahmapatha. Then one is a Brahmana. Then the second one, do your Swadharma as laid down in the Vedas. That he has already talked about it because dispassion comes from it. And in that dispassion, you will cultivate devotion. Then he says, these will lead to aversion to sense pleasures and engender a love for the cult of devotion. See, ehi karafala, puni bishaya viraga, tabamama dharma upaja anuraga. Upaja anuraga, upaja is grow, anuraga is love. You grow love for this cult of devotion and you will have aversion for sense pleasures, he says. And then what will happen? Then he says, Shravanadika Nava Bhakti Dhadahi. You know, the 9 types of bhakti which has been talked about in the Ramayana, Shravana, etc. It will become steadfast, he says. And Mama Leela Rati Atimana Mohi. See, Mama Leela, my sports, Rati, extreme love, Ati Rati, meaning extreme love, Manamahi. In his mind, there is extreme love for the Leela or the sports of the Lord. Very clear. Devotion melts his heart. Can be acquired by a favor of saint. Once the favor of saint is there, it can be cultivated by devotion to extreme devotion to feet of Brahmanas and doing our Swadharma. This will lead us away from sense pleasures towards bhakti. Navida bhakti will become steadfast and we will develop extreme fondness for his sports. Then what happens? Continuation of under Dua 15. He says, then the person should think of me, the Lord, as his guru, father, mother, all in all. Guru, Pita, Pitu, Matu, Bandhu, Pati, Deva. See, he even goes to say Bandhu, friend, Pati, meaning husband. All of that he sees as me. Taba mohi kaha, jane dhrida seva. Seeing all of them as me only, he is steadfast in seva to all of them and in me and to me in them. Think about it. So now that the devotee is seeing the Lord as Guru, Father, Mother, Friend, Pati, meaning husband, etc., he is doing seva to Guru, Father, Mother, Friend and husband. But he is doing that seva seeing the Lord in them. So therefore he is steadfast in seva to the Lord in them. So what does that mean? It means we don't have to go to forest to do seva to the Lord. All we have to do is we have to change our viewpoint. What is our view today? I am doing service to my husband, wife, brother, sister, mother, father, mother-in-law, father-in-law. No. He says, see me in your brother, sister, husband, wife, mother, father, father-in-law. See me in them. Meaning Rama says, see Rama in them and now your world is Rama-may, Krishna-may, Devi-may, depending on whoever your Ishtadevata is. So now when you are asked, what is the work that you are doing? You are saying, I am serving the Lord in my husband. I am serving the Lord in my father-in-law. I am serving the Lord in my mother. I am serving the Lord in my children. The view has changed. Work remaining the same, the bhavana inside has changed. Think. Very important for us to understand this. That is what Lord Rama is saying there. He's saying, such a devotee who is doing the seva for a long time, when he sings my glories, a thrill runs to his body. Horripilations come all over his body and tears flow from his eyes. Naturally, because he's so devoted, so dedicated to Lord. Gada gada gira nayana baha nira. Gada gada gira nayana baha nira. And mama guna gavata fulaka sarira. Pulaka sarira. Pulakankit ho gaya. You know, pulakankit kehte hain Hindi mein. It became pulakankit. Horripilations came in the body and tears were flowing from the eyes of such a devotee. And then the Lord says, for such a devotee, what he does? Doha 16, Aranyakand. Bachana karma manamori satati, bhajanu karahin kam, tinha ke hridaya kamala mahu, karahu sada bishram. He says, what do? I ever repose in the lotus heart of those who depend on me in thought, word and deed, and worship me in a disinterested way. See, now my only Aadhar is Ram, Krishna, Devi, whatever is my Ishtadevata. Thought, word and deed, I depend only on the Lord, and I worship the Lord in a disinterested way, meaning I worship the Lord for the Lord. I do not worship the Lord for the world. Very different thing. When I'm worshipping the Lord, asking this, that, the other, what am I doing actually? Am I worshipping the Lord? Ostensibly, I'm worshipping the Lord, but really I'm worshipping for the purpose of getting the world. So who am I worshipping? The world, not the Lord. Whereas when I'm worshipping the Lord in a disinterested way, I'm no more asking for Vastu Vyakti Parasthiti in the world. What am I asking? I'm asking for the Lord from the Lord. Bhagwan se, Bhagwan ko mang rahe hain. We are asking God from God himself. So we understood all this, isn't it? So what does Ramcharitmanas say? 2 slides is on Ramcharitmanas. One, spiritual wisdom bestows liberation, but then he goes on to talk about bhakti, how to cultivate bhakti, how favor of saint is required, how Navida bhakti becomes firm, how fondness we discover for bhakti, how the devotee sees everybody as Lord and how he does seva for them, how tears flow from his eyes, how the Lord ever reposes in the heart of a bhakta. Okay, very good. We have reached thus far, right? As a conclusion. But how does this still talk about Maya? Because in the Bhagwad Gita, chapter 10, verse 11, he says, in order to shower my grace on them, meaning on my devotees, I, Lord Krishna, dwelling in their heart, remember, I ever repose in the lotus heart, dwelling in their heart. What does he do when he dwells in their heart? Dispels the darkness born of ignorance by shining the light of wisdom. Jnana deepena bhasvata. Jnana deepena bhasvata. What does he do? Nashayamyat ma bhavastho. He destroys the darkness born of ignorance. Tamaha, darkness. Nasha, he destroys. And what does he shine? The light of wisdom. When the Lord residing in the heart of his devotee shines the light of wisdom, what will happen to Maya? Maya will disappear. Maya will run away from all of us, and we will put ourselves in a position where we can ever be at the service of the Lord. So I'm conscious we are not yet at 12:45, but I wanted to pause here and see if there are any more questions from anybody on the call before I move on to my next slide, where I'm going to pick up Narada Bhakti Sutra. Probably I won't be able to finish it. I will finish part of Narada Bhakti Sutra today and pick up other part tomorrow. But any questions from anybody? Let me just see the question answer part. Oh, what do we do in meditation? Okay, what we do in meditation, sir, is we observe our thoughts. We observe our thoughts. That's all we do in meditation. In meditation, we don't try to stop our thoughts. We don't try to stop the flow of thoughts, nothing. We just observe our thoughts so that we can put ourselves in a position where we can non-judgmentally allow the thoughts to come and go. Non-judgmentally, we can allow the thoughts to come and go. So we allow the thoughts to flow, don't allow any thoughts to stick to us and become us. So as we continue to observe our thoughts in an impassive fashion in our meditation for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, without getting involved in them, right? Then that drishta bhavana, which we have set up in our meditation, needs to be available to us during our balanced 23.5 hours. So meditation is not that which is done alone at the time of sitting for meditation. Meditation is that which enables us to live a meditative life. That is what is meditation all about. Available for, we should be able to live a meditative life. Yeah. Okay. So is Maya an illusion? Yeah, Maya's very loose translation is illusion. But illusion doesn't cut it, and therefore we went to very extensive definitions of Maya. Yeah. So if there are no other questions, I can see there are no other questions. So I will continue with my slide. Next slide, which I'll pick up, is from Narada Bhakti Sutra. There is this wonderful part of Narada Bhakti Sutra where there is a question asked, Kastarati Kastarati Mayam. Who crosses? Who crosses? And then Narada answers that question with very many practices. Kastarati Kastarati Mayam is 46th verse of Narada Bhakti Sutra. For those who are not aware, Narada Bhakti Sutra is credited to Narada ji, naturally. And it is a set of 84 aphorisms, sutras, very succinct aphorisms or sutras are very succinct, very summarized, telegraphic method of communication, right? There are 84 aphorisms in Narada Bhakti Sutra, which communicate about the greatness of bhakti. What is bhakti? How it is to be enabled? What are the badhakas to bhakti? In that badhaka to bhakti, in that obstruction to bhakti, he talks about bad company and how the bad company creates ripples in the mind and how that ripples in the mind are actually only nothing but Maya. He talks about that. And then he asks the question, who crosses Maya? Because if you don't cross Maya, the type of bhakti that he is talking about, of the type that the gopis had for Krishna, right? That type of bhakti, he says, is not possible unless we cross Maya. In the 46th verse and in the 46th, 47, 48 and 49th verse, I answer the question, the series of practices. We will not practice today because we got only half an hour left. We'll leave the last 10 minutes for further questions or close the session a bit early, but we will take as much as we can. Yes, Sangam Tyajati, right? One who gives up attachment to Vastu Vyakti Parasthiti. Sangam Tyajati, one who gives them attachment. Why Sangam Tyajati? Because Dhyato Vishyan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate, 61 and 62 of Bhagwad Gita. Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha, Kamat Krodho Vijayate. What happens when you think about an object? Attachment is formed. From that attachment arises desire. When that desire is not satisfied, anger arises. Krodho Vijayate. Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha. Delusion arises from that Krodha. Sammohat Bhavati Smriti Bhramsaha. Then memory is lost. Smriti Bhramsaha. Smriti Bhramtat Buddhi Nasho. When the memory is lost, Buddhi is also destroyed. Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. Because once the Buddhi is lost, you are destroyed. This is 61 and 62, the ladder of fall in Bhagwad Gita. Therefore, from Sangha comes destruction of the personality. Simple, right? From Sangha comes destruction of personality. Therefore, he says, who crosses Maya? One who gives up attachment to Vastu Vyakti Parasthiti. Now, if you ask how to give up this attachment, that is a whole new series of talks. Because chapter 3, 4, 5 talks about Karma Yoga principles for giving up attachment. Chapter 6 talks about Jnana Yoga, principle of giving up attachment. The final chapters talk about the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, type of giving up. So there are so many methodologies prescribed: Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. So many yogas are prescribed in Bhagwad Gita for the purpose of giving up attachment. So there will be a whole other talk, but we can in Sankshipta understand here that we have to give up attachment to what? Vastu, Vyakti and Parasthiti. Where do we start? Start with Vastu. Which Vastu we start with? Those which are unnecessary, right? We found out in COVID how many things that we own are completely unnecessary for us, right? We had a wardrobe which we open, the clothes fall on our heads. We have put a bracket on it, you know, L bracket we have put the clothes behind so that they don't fall on our heads. So can we make a policy that says we will, if you're a lady, no more than 50 dresses. If you're a gentleman, no more than 7-8 shirts and 4-5 pants. That's enough for office wear. More than enough. The policy should be, if a new shirt or pant comes in, then an old shirt or pant needs to go out. If a new churidar kurta comes in, an old churidar kurta has to go out. So we can do various experiments on ourselves like this for giving up attachment to Vastu, Vyakti, Parasthiti. So like this, umpteen number of experiments are there which we can try to do. Then he says, Yo Mahanubhavam Sevate, one who serves the wise. One person went to the Guru and the person was in a hurry. So he said, Guruji, you know the way to liberation. So please give me quickly this way. Please give me quickly this way. Please give me quickly this way. All the time, this was his refrain. You know the way to liberation. Please give me quickly this way. So the Guru got fed up. One day he said, okay, tomorrow I'm coming to your house. I will give you this pathway to liberation. Be ready at 4 p.m. I will come to your house. Right? I will give you the pathway to liberation. So this person got delighted. He went home. Next day, he cooked 56 types of food for the Guru. Because the Guru was coming to his house for the first time and he was going to give him the path to liberation. Very momentous event. So he had to cook. He cooked. The Guru came. He came with his kamandalu at 4:30 and he said, look, I'm very hungry. I've not had lunch even. Please serve the food directly into the kamandalu. The disciple looked inside the kamandalu. The kamandalu was dirty. It had some old food of 10 days old inside the kamandalu. There were cobwebs inside the kamandalu. He was flabbergasted. He said to the Guru, the kamandalu is dirty. Let me wash it and give it to you. Immediately I'll serve the food in it. Who said, look, forget it. I'm very hungry. Just simply serve me the food in the kamandalu as is. Many times he requested to wash it. The Guru said, no, I'm hungry. Serve the food immediately. Now. Please serve it now. So at last, the disciple had to tell the Guru, inside the kamandalu, there is a lot of dirt. Old food is there. A lot of dirt. Dust is there. Let me clean it. Then I will put my food which is cooked new. Then the Guru said, for your 2 paisa food, you want to clean it, right? For the knowledge which I am about to give you, which has what value? It has no value can be put on it. See, it is extremely valuable, infinitely valuable knowledge that you want to put into your receptacle for called mind, which is filled with dirt. He said, go away, clean your mind, come back, just like you want me to clean my kamandalu. Then the knowledge will become similar. So one who serves the wise into bracket with a mind that has been cleaned through the various practices talked about in the Bhagavad Gita. Nirmamo bhavati, gets rid of the sense of minus, becomes selfless. See? Is ready to give up things for others. Simple things like pehle aap. You see, you go to the West and somebody opens a door, and if they look behind, if somebody is there, they will keep standing. They will say, first, you first, please. You please. They'll open the door for you. See? Simple, small things where my minus comes to the fore. Can I try to take it out and put myself in a position where I become selfless? See? My money. I go for an auto ride, right? The fare in the auto is 21 rupees. I've got 30 rupees in my purse. Can I simply give 30 rupees to the auto wala and come out, keep the change? Some amount of my minus will reduce. But people say, my God, the auto wala will become habituated to getting 30 rupees. He'll be disappointed because nobody else will give him the 30 rupees. Don't worry about it. You find out whether you can do it. Don't carry 1 rupee coins in your purse for this now. See, I told somebody the auto fare previously was 18 rupees. So I said, if it is 18 rupees, give 20 rupees and come back. So after some days, we were discussing how well we were practicing this. And the person said, I'm not practicing it at all because every time I find change in my purse because I'm carrying change now. 18 rupees change I'm carrying. That is not the purpose of the practice. See, become selfless means give off my dhana. Loka sangraharta hitam dhanam. Loka sangra hitam dhanam. Meaning for the purpose of the benefit of society is my dhana. And paropakarartham shariram. What is the purpose of the sharira? For paropakara. See, become selfless means do some seva where there is no benefit to you. Do some dana where there is no benefit to you. Get rid of some of my minus. By doing seva and dana where you are not recognized. That is, get rid of my sense of minus. Then one who resorts to solitary place. Now, where is this solitary place? You try to go to national park, big board is outside. What is that board? Human beings allowed only from 6:30 to 9:30 and 4:30 to 6:30. See? You can't even go to forest because you're not allowed there. Because human beings are more dangerous than the wild animals inside. So what is this solitary place? This is talked about by Shankara in the Bhagwad Gita. Yogaratova, Bhogaratova, Sangaratova, Sangavihinaha, Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam, Nandati Anandatyeva. He might be in yoga or in bhoga. He might be with people or without people. Sangaratova, Sangavihinaha. He might be with people or without people. Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam, whose chitta is always associated with that Brahman. He is happy, happy, happy all the time. This is the solitary place. Solitary in the mind. The real crowd of the world is not outside. It is inside my mind. Think. Yo vivikta sthanam sevate. Yo loka bandhan unmulayati. See, one who takes out the attachment to the world by its roots. Think. Unmulayati, he says, by its roots he takes out. How to take out by the root? That is talked about in the 15th chapter of the Bhagwad Gita. He says, Asanga shastrena dhidena chitva. By the shastra called detachment, with deep determination, he says, cut this tree of samsara root and branch, he says, in the 15th chapter, 3rd verse of the Bhagwad Gita. Unmulayati takes out the attachment to the world by its roots. Naturally, attachment to husband, wife, children will not go that easily. So where do we start this removal of attachment? Where do we start this sense of minus to be got rid of? Where do we start this service to the wise? In small portions. See, our Param Pujya Guruji has a very simple saying for all these spiritual practices. And that saying is, 1 spoon less, 5 minutes early. 1 spoon less, 5 minutes early. What does it mean? It means this. Suppose I'm eating this much rice. Lot of rice I'm eating. My weight is rising. I want to reduce my rice eating. So what I do, I serve myself, if I'm serving myself 10 tablespoons of rice, okay, which becomes this much. One day, I serve myself 9 tablespoons of rice. How much tablespoon I've reduced? Only 1 tablespoon. Very good. Is it possible to stay not hungry with 9 tablespoons? Very possible. The mind will not rebel. Because 9 tablespoons are there. So 2 weeks, I eat 9 tablespoons of rice. 2 weeks. The mind is now very comfortable with 9 tablespoons. After that, what I do? 8 tablespoons. 3 weeks, I eat 8 tablespoons. Mind is now very comfortable with 8 tablespoons. After that, what I do? 7 tablespoons. Don't go down to 5. 7 tablespoons. Bit by bit, you will reduce till you come to the 3 or 4 tablespoons you want to be very comfortable with. Similarly, for waking up. At 6:30, you want to wake up at 5:30. Don't set alarm for 5:30. You will not succeed. What you're supposed to do then? Keep the alarm for 5:25. 5 minutes early. See, for 1 week you wake up at 5:25. Mind says it is perfect, man. You know, it's only 5 minutes early. I have no problem. After 1 week, 5:20. Now 5:20, 2 weeks. After that, 5:15. 5:15, 2 weeks, and so forth, and so forth. Till after a year, you are at 6 o'clock or you are at 5:30. Very comfortable. So when he says Lokabandhan Unmulayati, little by little, bit by bit, all spiritual practices should be small but repeatable. See? Then Nistraiganyo Bhavati, one who goes beyond the influence of the gunas. See? How to go beyond the influence of the gunas? Chapter 14 of Bhagwad Gita has to be read in its entirety, because that's where he talks about how to become a gunatita. In that 14th chapter, 10th verse is very important, because he says overpowering rajas and tamas, sattva prevails. Overpowering rajas and tamas, sattva prevails. And then he says overpowering sattva and rajas, tamas prevails. And overpowering sattva and rajas, sattva and tamas, rajas prevails. Think. So what does it mean? It means we have to put in the effort to be in sattva. What does it mean to be in sattva? To be in sattva is equal to focusing more and more on the Lord. Living a God-centric life is living in sattva. What we talked about, remember? How to bring the mind repeatedly back to God. That one is living in sattva. So I have to put in the effort for sattva to fight and win over rajas and tamas. Then when I have been in sattva for a long period of time, Shuddha sattva, for a long period of time, then I can go beyond the influence of gunas. I can become gunatita. Then yogakshemam tyajati, who gives up all ideas of acquisition and preservation. Remember Kanchana Kamini example? Same thing. Yak karma phalam tyajati, one who gives up the fruits of actions. Karmani sanyasati, one who gives up all egocentric actions. Chapter 3, 4 and 5 of Bhagwad Gita is covered here. Prasada buddhi, Ishvara buddhi. Tato nirdvandvo bhavati. As a consequence of practicing Ishvara buddhi and Prasada buddhi, he rises above the pairs of opposites called pain and pleasure, heat and cold, mana and apamana. Yo vedanapi sanyasyati, who gives the rites and ceremonies prescribed by the Vedas. This is all with relation to the world. See, all those marked in red are with relation to the world. Then, kevalam vichinna anuragam labhate. And therefore, he obtains continuous hankering for God. See, he comes back to continuous hankering for God, because one who has continuous hankering for God becomes a devotee. God resides in his heart. God residing in his heart dispels the ignorance and provides the light of wisdom. And such a person, he says, satarati, satarati, salokan starayati. Satarati, satarati, salokan tarayati. He crosses. Indeed, he crosses. He also helps others to cross. So this I've taken in a very rapid summary. We will take this in a bit more detail tomorrow. So summarize today before we wrap up for today. We started with is there a way to deal with Maya? And we started with who can deal with Maya. We talked about the competent student and how the student needs to go to the Guru, who's a Shrotriyam and a Brahmanishtam, prostrate and serve before him. We understood the meaning of prostration serving. Then we went constantly adoring God, devotion. And we saw that the mind will repeatedly run after objects, but we have to repeatedly fix it on God, by defeating oneself by one's own effort, by conquering one's own lower self, which is body, mind, senses. One becomes a friend, otherwise one is one's own enemy. We saw this was part of Bhagwad Gita. Then we saw Bhagwatam 11, chapter 3, verse 17, where there is a straight question for ordinary people: how do they get over Maya? We saw how Maya has Kanchan and Kamini as its two offshoots, but if you want to get out of it and if you want to stop Vishaya Chintana, we must worship the Guru. And then we acquire the traits of a good disciple and a good devotee. We become Antarmukhi, we acquire a taste for Nama. And then we understand that we have to use every minute for devotion. God now resides in the heart of the devotee and Maya runs away from such a heart, right? And such a devotee easily crosses the impassable Maya. Then we saw from Ramcharitmanas, continuation of Rama's answer under Chaupai. Chaupai is under Dua 15, where the Lord favors devotion. How to get devotion? Serving the feet of Brahmanas. We saw Brahmanas are not only those who are born Brahmanas, but also those who are Brahmanas by practice. One who walk the Brahmapata are also Brahmanas. Those Dharma has laid down in Vedas lead to aversion of sense pleasures, and then this will make us Navavida Bhakti steadfast, develop extreme fondness for the sports. We will be seeing the Lord in everybody and doing the work as seva to the Lord. And for such a devotee who is having percolation in his body as he thinks about the Lord and tears in his eyes, such a devotee's heart, he says, he resides, and once the Lord resides in his heart, he will dispel the darkness of ignorance and shine the light of wisdom. And then we saw, in great summary, the wonderful words of Narada and Narada Bhakti Sutra, which you will see in a little bit greater detail tomorrow, as also deal with other parts of the books that we have not taken, like Panchadashi, Vivekachoodamani, we will deal with that. Jai Shri Krishna. I will hand the session back to you, sir. I don't see any questions anyways. Only one question. Can we understand that such a person will overlook Maya or will not accept Maya? No, neither. Will neither overlook Maya nor he will not accept Maya. Maya will be ever present, right? Because it is Sa-Upadhik Maya. See, there is Nirupadhik Maya and Sa-Upadhik Maya. It is important to understand these two concepts, Nirupadhik and Sa-Upadhik. When the snake is seen in the rope, we are walking in a dark day, there's no lights, and we see a coil on the road, we think it's a snake. Snake is seen in the rope, right? But when we shine the light, the snake disappears and only the rope remains. It is called Nirupadhik Maya, meaning only the substratum remains. The imagined snake disappears. But Sa-Upadhik is to be understood like this, that jewelry is made out of gold, right? When jewelry is made out of gold, though I see the gold immanent in the jewelry, I'm no more seeing the Namarupa, I'm no more seeing the bangle, the earring, the necklace, etc. I'm only seeing the gold, right? But yet, by my seeing the gold immanent in that jewelry, the jewelry will not disappear. Sa-Upadhik. So the realized soul also sees the world which has emerged, but the world does not impact him anymore. See, in Sa-Upadhik Maya, the world is visible, but is not impacting. Nirupadhik, with the knowledge, the world itself disappears. Hopefully that answers your question, sir. We will neither be able to overlook it, nor we accept it. We go past it. Taranti, we can neither understand Maya, nor we can overlook it, nor we will be able to accept it. But Taranti, we can cross it. Yeah. With the Lord's grace, we can cross it. And then, yeah, so thank you, Raghavanji. If there are no other questions, I will hand the session back to you, sir, for closing.
Yes, Srinivasan. Thank you so much. Let's just give it a minute more, if in case someone else would like to ask more questions.
Yeah.
There was a question earlier by one of the viewers. Does who am I address and dissolve Maya?
And the answer to that is yes, it does. I answered that question by saying that when we do neti neti, right, and we come to the crux of who I actually am, surely we will be in a position where that who am I? When I start to understand who I really am as opposed to who I think I am, then Maya will disappear for sure. Yes, who am I surely away, as Ramana Maharishi has repeatedly pointed out. Any question asked Ramana Maharishi, he brought it back to the asker of the question, not answer the question. Yeah. Nanya, who am I? All the time the answer was, look at the questioner, not the question. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Srinivas ji. We don't have any more questions at the moment. Looking forward to the session tomorrow. And with that, I think we could conclude this session. Dear viewers, thank you so much for joining us in this session. We have another session, the third part of the same series. Tomorrow, same time, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Looking forward to the session once again. Thank you so much. Shri Guru Bhyo Namah.